Niroshadzi nakbagao, madashi mia adesheds, mabe sigids, madzigidads nakbagao. I said, hello, good people, my name is Woman Appears. It's a good day today, and thank you for inviting me into this space.
Bujuanin, Indigenous Maganadag, Indigenous Kas, Asasimi Winikwe. My name is Chokcherry Woman, and I'm from the Turtle Mountain Reservation.
Misko Gijikwe, Indigenous Kas, Mingun Dodim from Grand Portage, Minnesota, and also known as Laura Youngbird, and I'm the director of the Native Art Programs at the Plains Art Museum.
I am the director for Native American Christian Ministries, spiritual director, and I am also a task force member, co-founder for the MMIWG task force here in the Fargo-Moorhead area.
Currently, I am a legislator here in North Dakota, serving District 27 in the House of Representatives. This is a 4-year term, so I won my race in 2018, and I'll be up for re-election in 2022. I would say to a person who isn't familiar with the topic that it's a very complex issue.
MMIW is uprising awareness about the atrocities that we have been facing as Indigenous people. We're trying to educate as well as empower our people, reawaken that spirit, strengthen our backbone so we're no longer targeted.
We need to have these uncomfortable conversations about the history of our country, where we are today. There's so much that our country needs to come to grips with. For example, the actual real history of this land, land acknowledgements, but also digging a little bit deeper into the true history. And once we do that, I believe we can address the root cause of the symptoms of MMIW, MMIP, violence against women, which is in direct correlation to how we treat the earth, Mother Earth.
So I'm an activist and a protester by heart, and so I've been actively in MMIW education, research, and the community work since 2014.
Back in 2014, I was a graduate student at NDSU, and I was also a graduate assistant in policy and public health services for 2 years at the American Indian Public Health Resource Center, where I was able to meet Hannibal Blue, who's an amazing individual who actually was one of the key organizers for the Sing Our Rivers Red event.
Sing Our Rivers Red, that was a event a few years back at NDSU where they artists asked for missing earrings, and that was put on this big long cloth, and that traveled all over. And at one point we tried to see if we could borrow that to put it up for exhibit, but it's like it was booked for I don't know how long.
Is now a nationwide exhibit. You know, that earring exhibit travels the nation, and it was birthed out of Fargo-Moorhead area.
We also have a dress that Laura Youngbird created. It represents our relatives that are murdered or missing, and it's an earring exhibit.
And the dress has moved around to different community offices and to schools, and I'm not sure where it is. I think it's in Moorhead somewhere, last I heard.
The first march that happened, to my knowledge, in the Fargo-Moorhead area was under the leadership of the Sing Our Rivers Red group in 2015. At that time, all of the area mayors from Dilworth, Moorhead, Fargo, West Fargo enacted a proclamation dedicating February 14th as MMIW Awareness Day. Fast forwarding to 2017, when a young Indigenous mother who was 8 months along in her pregnancy, the late Savannah LaFontaine Graywin, went missing, a lot of us found ourselves on the front lines looking for her, because this happened right here in Fargo, and it was like, how could we not step in to help in any capacity that we could? Many of us were searchers for the first time. Many of us had no expertise, but in that moment, I remember reaching out to a very experienced person. We're from the same tribe, and she was very accessible through social media. You know, I asked on my way literally to the search, I said, hey, I'm on my way to the search. I want to be helpful and effective. What can I do? What should I bring? And she gave me a big long list, so I started chipping away at that.
The awareness for it has really risen. We've got a lot of great, strong Indigenous leaders here in the community, as well as helpful allies.
And I think what we really need to do is teach our children, especially, teach everybody that, you know, that this problem exists. But it's very important to teach boys and girls to be respectful of each other.
There has been good growth forward, but more still needs to happen. I think we're still very much in the infancy stages. We're barely scratching the surface, but more people are becoming more aware of the issue and the alarming rate of Indigenous people going missing. So it's moving in the right direction, but more needs to be done. We need a multidisciplinary approach. We need everybody, all hands on deck, so to speak. The local FM Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Human Trafficking Task Force was formed as a result of the murder of the late Savannah LaFontaine Greywind. And I posed the question to the group, what are we going to do? Are we going to form a task force? What are we going to do? We have to do something. Because prior to that, I had conversations with different community members who shared concerns. You know, we shared concerns of being Indigenous, of being moms, women, and we thought if and when this were to ever happen again, should, God forbid, another community member go missing, we didn't want to waste time trying to convince law enforcement that rapid response was needed or is necessary. So we thought, let's form a task force. So I know a lot of planning goes into it, a lot of careful, mindful, intentional planning goes into it to have like a good balance to make sure that we are trying to give the communities hope and uplift the voices of survivors and victims' families, but also to empower our communities along with the hope. So a lot of planning goes into to make the event a success, I know, and I really commend all of the organizers and people who work year-round, you know, to find funds. The City of Fargo has been instrumental in supporting this event, as well as local community members, even from across the river in Moorhead. So it's an important event. Yeah, still trying to figure out ways to help fix the gaps or fill in the gaps. Of course, policy in the policy arena, but still, you know, trying to find ways to strengthen our families. How do we strengthen our family structures, our community structures, individuals, you know, by equipping community members with more knowledge and training, you know, even getting back to our roots and our Indigenous knowledge, and how do we continue to be a good relative and move forward in a good way as a collective, but also making sure that as individuals we are also working on healing our traumas as well, and I think that's important. So I think it'll continue to be a lifelong process, because MMIW is a symptom of a bigger problem, and how do we heal our communities, how do we protect our communities, how do we keep our communities safe, it's going to take years, and it's going to take all of us.